My name is Elizabeth Warburton, and I'm here with Property 118's YouTube channel today. Now, I am joined by Matt and Niall from Scott Baker Properties, who were one of the award winners at the UK Property Investor Awards. So, firstly, thank you very much, gents, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, it should be good fun. Now, you both won Co-Living Deal of the Year. But before we get started on the award and the deal it was that you won the award for, I'd like to take it back to the beginning, really. Can you tell us both, maybe Matt, you go first, on how you started in property?
Okay, so my adventure and this kind of deep dive into property started back in 2015. Before then, I was a professional piano player and had a music school, and I was doing gigs and all kinds of things in the kind of creative arts industry, and that was wonderful. But it wasn't great for reliable cash flow, for future growth potential that I really wanted for me and a future family. So I found a way to. I was looking for ways to grow my existing business. I had that music school, and I really wanted to take it to the next level so that I could take a step back out of it. So when I went to an event to find out about how to grow my business, there was other speakers talking about other strategies, and one of them happened to be property investing. And this lady stood up and said, "You can invest in property with no time and no money." And I was like, "Ooh, let's do that then." So I was one of those that fell for it and ended up in a training course and the mentorship back in 2015. And then I was able to sell the music school and really start to get into property investing. And we'll maybe talk a bit about that a bit later on. And I met Niall on the 2nd of May 2015.
Oh, have you known your anniversary? How
To the date, yeah.
Brilliant. Was that at a property event then, I presume?
Yeah, yes, it was. It was at one of the training events as part of that mentorship. So we both did that same training at the very beginning.
Okay, excellent. And Niall, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit as well.
Yeah, so my background obviously is slightly different to Matt's. I was working in financial services as a contractor before I got into property. But that was one of many different career hats that I had worn over the years, and I'd never really found a job or a path that I was really comfortable with or happy with to do as a long-term lifetime career. I think I'm probably one of those people that's quite unemployable. I don't like being told what to do. So being in a paid corporate job wasn't really the right setting or the right fit for me. So I was always looking for something a bit different, something to be able to, I guess, paddle my own canoe and create that lifestyle that I wanted for myself, with having what was, well, what it's banded around a lot is the passive income from property. So I went along to the same training as Matt, just at a different point, and started off from there, really. And throughout the period, obviously, of going through the training and the mentorship and the program, became friendly with Matt and his ex-wife, his now ex-wife, and we kind of, we just built up a friendship and decided at one point that it was going quite slowly. So we decided to do a joint venture, bought a couple of buy-to-lets really quickly, and it just kind of took off from there, really.
That sounds brilliant. So you're both from very different backgrounds. Matt, you're traditionally, I would say, the more creative type. Niall, would you say you bring more of the logistical elements, and that's why you both work really well together as a JV partner? or do you bring different things to the table?
Yeah, we definitely bring different things to the table. Even though my background was within financial services, I was more back office, dealing with insurances and complaints and that type of thing. So numbers is definitely not my bag. Can hold my hands up and say that's not where my forte is.
Right.
I'm much more involved in the people side of the business, if you like. So sourcing, viewings, going on site, liaising with teams, meeting new investors. Well, we both do that, but mine is more kind of like on the ground type part of the business, and Matt is much more the numbers person, the spreadsheets and that element of it.
Interesting. So you
Which is
disagree then, I guess, Matt, with what I said about you maybe bringing the creative side.
no, I wouldn't say that, because I would say that we're both relatively creative. I like solving problems, so the
Mm.
creativity side for me is more about, I also hate spreadsheets, if I'm honest, but I know how to use them. I can play with them. As part of my degree, I was like did music, I was in technology, physics, math was all part of that, because you've got two sides of music. You've got the people that sit play guitar around a campfire, and you've got those that can actually play an instrument. Um,
Wow.
Woo! I know,
Easy.
easy. So those so people who play piano and a lot of instruments can be quite mathematically minded as well. So that was me. And what I really love is, I set up a business, the music school, that was solving a problem in the area. And then we've got into property. What I absolutely love is solving the problems that we encounter all the time. So quite a high level. And what we've been able to do is build a team around us to fill in the gaps. So people absolutely they live in a spreadsheet, whereas I won't live in a spreadsheet, but I'll go into it and I'll solve a problem and work around it, make sure it's what we need it to do. But then we'll have someone else who will go out there and deal with contractors and make sure that that's all done, because both of us will admit to not being great at project management. We tried it ourselves, we failed, and we were let down by numerous people along the way in terms of tradespeople.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't really until we got that kind of key member of the team in place that that started to be a lot more smoother.
There's so much trial and error at the beginning of any business, isn't there, really?
100%.
Yeah. So you mentioned that there were a couple of buy-to-lets that you started with. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
So the training organization that we did our training with at the time was really to start at the very beginning, the bottom rung of the ladder, if you like, with the cheap and cheerful buy-to-lets. Cut your teeth, get the experience as a landlord, as an investor, going through the whole process, and then eventually moving up into the bigger stuff, either flips, capital projects, HMOs, whatever it might be. Our first buy-to-lets, or my first buy-to-lets, because we had started investing separately first, are up in Lancashire, so 2 up, 2 down, very stereotypical northern properties. Still got most of them in the portfolio today, although I am in the process of selling one. But they are basically the first property I bought was a £50,000 2 up, 2 down mid-terrace property, and that was really going through the process of learning how to work with mortgage brokers and lenders and tradespeople and solicitors, and just learning that whole process without having a lot of skin in the game, if you like. It was a very cheap and cheerful property, but those were a really good starting point, I found, just to get an idea of what's ahead. They're obviously, buy-to-lets are really good. Not as good now, obviously, with the interest rates as they stand, but they are relatively hands-off. Once the tenant moves in, you would have that person in there for maybe 2-3 years at a time, and apart from a little bit of maintenance here and there, updating your gas safety certificates and that type of thing, you really don't have a lot of work to do with them. So they are more the set and forget type properties.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what does your business focus on now then?
We are now looking a lot more at the HMOs and the co-living side of the business. So as Niall said, we started off with those small buy-to-lets. I started off with a bungalow that I bought with my mum, and very quickly got into HMOs. My second purchase was an HMO conversion. So we bought a 4-bed terraced house and turned it into a 5-bed HMO, all en suite HMO. That was back in 2016 now, was March 2016 I bought that one, and progressed quite quickly, doing some more HMO conversions, then got into commercial conversions to HMO. And our ideal was to really improve everything on every project that we're doing. So we would look at it and go, how can the next one be better? How can we move and make sure that we're going to take all the learnings and improve upon the process and that outcome, that product, that service that we provide. So that led us to creating a really nice product, a high-end product, and something which we're proud for people to live in. And most of them are nicer than my own house, in terms of facilities, size, scale. They're absolutely amazing properties that we create over. We've evolved that process over time, and the team that helps us to deliver those those projects to that standard as well, because we use interior designers, architects, people that come up with better ideas than we do. And then we just go, well, hang on a minute, what about this? What about that? And thinking it from the investment perspective and the long-term tenant living perspective. But it was the high cash flow that we wanted. So HMOs was the way to go. And then it was, what's the best form of HMO living? And for us, that really is co-living. Because we know there's a breadth of types of HMOs. And co-living being the top 5% of our marketplace is where we are and where we want to continue to be.
For anybody who doesn't know what co-living is, who might be listening, can you just explain what that term means?
Yeah, co-living is basically where we're looking at the standard model of HMOs, but really integrating the tenants into the mix a lot more than what they have been in the past. Mm-hmm. So it's very typical for, let's say, a standard HMO for 5 complete strangers that have no connection and no likes, similarities, interests, all living in the same house. And there were occasions when we would hear of tenants saying that they would come home from work in the evening and there would be someone new in the kitchen. So that could be someone that's just broke into the house, or it could be someone that's moving into the room next door. Yeah. So there was no real interaction and focus on the actual customer, the people that were living in the house. So we're really focusing a lot more on creating spaces and putting people together that actually want to live in the same house. Mm-hmm. So it's ensuring that when we're moving people in, that we're putting people together that have similar likes, similar interests, similar backgrounds, so that they will actually want to interact with each other. They want to connect with each other and be able to start growing those communities within their own little bubble. So that being having beer and pizza nights, or watching the football on a Saturday, or whatever it might be, just to ensure that people are happier when they're living in the properties with people that they like. Mm-hmm. They look after the properties a lot more because it's more like a home rather than just a room in a shared house. Yeah. And people tend to stay a lot longer and pay their rent on time because they're happier. So the co-living element of it is really about the people and bringing them all together to interact and to have that community vibe.
Yeah, happy tenants means happy property developers, right?
Yes, definitely.
100%.
Yes. Is there any specific area that you focus on?
We're actually all over the country, depending on how we were growing the business at that time. So we both started up in the northwest. I was in Warrington, and Niall, you were up in Lancashire, up the road. And so I started buying some HMOs.
Where I grew up, actually.
So it's kind of that neck of the woods, and there's loads of towns around there, huge opportunity to create some good quality shared accommodation in and around Liverpool, Manchester, South Manchester. We've got stuff there, Stockport area. Actually just selling another one in that area as well, because there's a huge demand for the high quality stuff that we create from investors who want to buy them at large commercial values, which is kind of what we did with the scheme that won the award. So what we then did was, in the northwest, we kind of thought, well, we want to move a bit closer to home. I was living in the northwest at the time. I moved to London. Niall mentioned I got divorced, so my parents were up in the northwest, and when I finally left the nest for the second time, ended up back in London. So it was about creating things which were easier to get to in London. And Niall, you've been in London that whole time. So we ended up in the Midlands because it was easy to kind of jump in the car or jump on the train and get there. And then now we're focusing very much in the southeast, with stuff in and around Portsmouth, the south coast, and Kent as well. So we're kind of taking that bottom area of the UK. But we've also got stuff in Newcastle and Scotland, which we kind of picked up along the way. So we're all over the place.
Yeah, so you'll still look all over the place, I guess. If it works, it works.
Yeah, I guess so. Our main focus, really, like Matt said, is all along the south coast now. But if something came up in an area where we already have stuff and we know that the transition to either convert it or let it out or manage it, etc., would be an easy process, then yeah, we would still look at those as well, but it's not our main focus.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, tell me then about co-living deal of the year. Tell me about the deal that won it for you.
So this property is in Portsmouth, and it was originally a 3-bed semi-detached property. Purchased it for 240,000 back in 2019. Is that right? Yeah, 2019 we bought it. And the idea was to convert it into a 7-bedroom, what we call next level HMO or co-living space, and using permitted development rights to convert the loft into 2 bedrooms and go out the rear to extend the communal space. So it was I suppose it's pretty what we would call a pretty straightforward conversion of a 3-bed house to a 6 or 7-bed. Now, the difficulty with this one is that it's in Portsmouth, so it's an Article 4 area, which for anyone who's watching this doesn't know, it means that you can't just go and create an HMO. So as soon as you want to have 3 unrelated people living in a house together, you need to go and ask the council for planning permission to do it, and then you need to go and comply with all the rules that come with that. So we done those checks before we bought the property to make sure that it was going to work for us and that we were like 90% likely to get planning. And we took that risk, knowing that if it didn't work, we could then flip the house on and probably at least get our money back, if not a little bit of profit as well. Okay. So that was the plan, to have those exits in place. But we bought it, we submitted for planning, we did the works, and then what happened, Niall?
Yeah, so as soon as we started the refurbishment on it, we started in March 2020, and as we all know, there was a big pandemic. So that meant that the refurbishment and everything was on a go slow for a long period of time. The council departments all shut up shop and started working from home, those that were still working. But because of all of that, there were severe backlogs and delays with the council, so much so that even now in March 2023, 3 years later, there are still backlogs and problems with the council in trying to get through all of the applications and permissions that have been submitted since that point.
Yeah.
So it took us about 18 months thereabouts to actually get the planning permission through. We were very confident, like Matt said, in our ability to get the permit, to get the planning. But until we had that piece of paper signed, sealed, and in our hands, then we couldn't actually operate the property as a HMO, because it would have been illegal to do so. But like everything that we do, there's always a backup plan. There's always an exit strategy. So if plan A doesn't work, what else can we do with this property in this area to make it work and cash flow and not cost us anything? So we were very fortunate that we were able to turn it around quite quickly and rent it as serviced accommodation for a period of time until we were able to get through that gap and get planning permission in place. So it actually worked out fine for us. We were very fortunate that we'd done our due diligence at the beginning, so we knew what the exit strategy was even before we had to implement it. And high-end service accommodation units work very well in the same way that high-end co-living works as well.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. So what was the outcome then? You got the planning permission, you managed to convert it all. Do you still operate that now, or have you sold that on?
So we sold the property, in fact. Our aim was to keep it, but when we found out what some people were willing to pay for these properties that we were creating, we just put it on the market. In fact, it didn't even go on the market. No, it did end up a right move, I think. But
but only for a
sold.
very small period of time, or short period of time, yeah.
Yeah, it pretty much sold prior to anything going live online. And so we bought it for 240. We spent around 210 on it, plus some fees, and then we sold it for £630,000. So it was just over £100,000 profit on an HMO. Granted, it took us longer than we wanted to get that planning permission in place, but I think that gave us the extra uplift because the rents were a lot higher than we thought they were going to be when we first appraised the deal, and the GDV was that we sold it for was about £100,000 more than what we were expecting towards the end. So it has worked out very well. as a scheme. And we also retain the management of that property because we manage co-living HMOs under our management brand Co-Home. And so the person that bought it from us just wanted a completely hands-off experience. We retain the management. We know the property inside out, back to front, and therefore we just continue to manage it using that co-living approach that Niall was talking about earlier. And then the owner of that property now gets a really great rent. It's just a bit of a shame every month to see it going to someone else when it leaves the bank account and not to us.
Yeah, even though we have sold it, I'm quite heavily involved in the management side of the business and with Co-Home, as Matt said. And I still feel like I own the property because we're so close to it every day.
Yeah.
So when something goes wrong, yeah, definitely. It's definitely got that emotional attachment. If anything goes wrong, or if tenants or we refer to them as housemates are going to move out, or they've got a problem or a maintenance issue, it still feels like it's my problem.
Yeah. So what does the pipeline look like then for 2023?
We are on a mission to buy 10 more co-living projects this year. So we had this lull over the pandemic. So we purchased Laburnum Grove, and then we got another deal in 2020, and it was 2021. It was 2020, wasn't it?
20,
And then we've had about an
20.
18-month lull of no projects because deals weren't stacking. We were appraising loads of things, we were offering loads of things, we were going to auction, we were getting outbid left, right, and centre. And so I know a lot of people out there were experiencing very similar things, but deals weren't stacking because the build costs were going up. You couldn't predict your build cost from one week to the next. It became a very difficult environment to operate in. And now that that's calmed down, we're starting to see deals stack again, whereby the craziness of the majority of the market is gone. It now means that build costs are static, potentially even decreasing from one week to the next. And it means that our end values, we have to be a bit more cautious on them to make sure that we're still going to have a good outcome with multiple exit strategies, and the ability to retain it or sell it, I think, is important. But because we know what we're doing with these co-living projects, we've got a partnership with a contractor in the Kent area. We're going out there, we're going to buy 10 of these projects and do them over the next 12 months. We're also looking at doing some new build developments and some flips. Niall, do you want to go into that in a bit of detail?
Yeah, so this is, I guess, a strategy that we've been interested in doing for quite a long time as well. But as Matt has referred to, finding those deals, finding those projects that stacked became much more difficult. But we've now set up a new joint venture partnership with a building company. So they are doing obviously the development work on it. So we've bought a bungalow which we're going to have redeveloped into a 5-bed modern family home, high-end family home. And then the intention then is to split the garden in two and build a second one in the garden. So both of those projects will be flips, so the capital projects. And it's something we've been interested in doing for such a long time. It's very exciting now to actually be in the position to try something new. Co-living is our bag. We were not going to stop doing that. But it's nice to be able to diversify and grow the team and focus on doing some capital stuff as well as the cash flowing side of the business.
Yeah, that sounds.
And the great thing about the great thing about the market at the moment is that this morning I had about an hour and a half long meeting with our project manager, and we're looking at 3 deals at the moment which work at pretty much what the vendors want. So again, we can go out there, we can offer, we can put bids in, and one of them is a 7-story block of flats. So we're looking to really scale up the business as well and take it to the next level is where we want to go.
Exciting. And is that still in the southeast area that you were talking about before?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And are you working with investors on any of those projects? If anybody watching was wanting to maybe get in touch?
Yes.
Yeah, we've worked with investors since day one, really, all the way through. So yeah, we do work with investors quite closely.
Okay, great. And where are they able to get in touch with you both?
I would suggest probably Instagram. So it's Scott Baker Properties on Instagram, or my own personal handle is Niall Scott. or scottbakerproperties.co.uk as our website. You can contact us through that either, or even email info@scottbakerproperties.co.uk.
Brilliant. And in terms of the Property Investor Awards, do you feel that winning the awards has had a positive impact on your business?
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing has been just the breadth and width of exposure that it's given us as a business. I think we already had a decent exposure and a decent awareness in the market, but it's definitely grown that as especially as experts in co-living. So one of the things which I think is really important to us is that one of the amazing things that we won the award that we wanted to win, the co-living award. It's what we want to be known for. It's what we are doing out there. It's what we're actively doing, and it would have been great to win. We entered another couple of categories, but this is the one that means the most because it's what we do. And it has opened some doors to some investors. We're now talking to investors who are looking at putting in 7-figure sums to help grow the business, which is a scale up for us. And it also gives a confidence that we can go and deliver at that level, because it's almost like we've been waiting for it the last couple of years of pent up energy and looking at deals and trying to work out what we're doing, to then come and say, well, beginning of 2023, we're now in a really strong position. We're now an award-winning developer. Now let's just go and smash this year and do, just to take, because we've done a lot in the first 7 years of business, and I reckon we're going to condense that result again in the next couple of years, and really scale. So we're very, very excited about what this year and next year will bring.
Good. And it sounds as well like you've really gone about it in the right way. I know, like, each to their own and every developer is very different, but the fact that you've focused on one particular strategy for 6-7 years, you've now become experts within that field, and then now you're branching out into flips and into other opportunities within the investment world. I think you've got a really secure foundation and a good solid business for investors to be happy that they're putting their money into a safe, reliable business and people.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess we've learned the ropes, and we've spent a lot of time perfecting the craft, if you like. And we've got a great team of people that we work with, from project managers to finance directors in the background. So it's not just myself and Matt. Like, we've got a good team of strong support behind us as well that make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah. So
there's people who love spreadsheets and live in the spreadsheets.
Yeah. You'll leave them to the spreadsheets.
100%.
Definitely not being the get rich dream that you were sold at the beginning. Then, hey, Matt.
No, well, I think when you go to those events, they sell the dream, because you wouldn't start if they told you how hard it was going to be. So it was, I think it was going into it with your eyes open, knowing that it takes a decent amount of time to actually find a property, to buy a property, to develop a property. This doesn't, you don't scale overnight. You get to a position where you can buy 1 or 2 properties, 2-3 properties in your first year or two, and then that's when you use that foundation, the knowledge, to scale. Because if you try to go big on your first deal and if something goes wrong, then that takes you out of the game. And I know quite a few people that have lost their confidence through deals going badly at the very beginning, and then just stopped property entirely. Whereas if you just kept going, it's highly unlikely the second one's going to be as bad as that first experience. It's just unlucky if it happens on the very first one. But there were mistakes made in our first one, and I remember feeling like it was the end of the world at the time. And just in the last week, we've had all sorts of crazy stuff happening, going wrong, that you don't really give a second thought to. You just have to get stuck in and solve the problem, because that's the way through. That's the way you're going.
Yeah, the life of a property investor is just daily problem solving, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So for anybody then who might be just starting out, is there any little tips or tricks or a little bit of advice that you would give?
I think from me, it would be to get yourself a coach or a mentor, or get on some training. Um, there is so much to learn. There's so much to do, and if you've never done it before, then it can be, as Matt said, it can be very overwhelming. It can be very daunting. Um, and I know everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people will say you don't need a mentor, you don't need a coach, because you can, whatever you want to know, you just Google it, or you look for a YouTube video. But you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what to type into Google, how are you going to get that answer? So having someone behind you that has done it already, that is actively investing and has a portfolio, not someone that wants to have one, someone that has learned the ropes themselves and can guide you and help you when things go wrong, because things will go wrong.
Yeah, as well. I think you can Google as much as you want, but a mentor really helps you take action and have accountability as well, don't they? They keep you on track.
Yeah.
Rather than just continuous YouTube after YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we've still got mentors to this day that we use that are at the level above us. Some of them are a direct part of our team, like our finance directors and project managers. But also having other people that do developments at a high level just sense check what we're doing as we're going into new strategies, new schemes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do co-living till the cows come home, and probably do that quite a large scale, without not breaking a sweat, but without worrying about it too much.
Yeah.
But when we first have these conversations about flipping houses, we're just like, oh, that sounds really scary, because what if we can't sell it? Because our whole ethos to now has been, we're going to keep everything. Cash flow is king. Cash flow is king. We get cash flow, then we're safe. But now we're like, okay, well, we're not going to keep it. We're going to sell it. So getting our heads into a new mindset was quite key.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that we still do to this day.
Good. And do you offer mentorship or coaching yourselves?
Yes, we do. So we have a business called the HMO Platform, which does specific training and coaching for HMO and co-living specialisms. So if people are wanting to do high cash flow, more resilient types of investments, then that's what we are set up to do. And we've got some very, very successful clients that we've worked with over the last kind of 3-4 years that we've been offering that as a service.
Brilliant. So that's the HMO Platform for anybody who wants to look into that a little bit more. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time to chat to me today. It's been brilliant learning about what you both do and a little bit more about your business. And good luck getting those 10 in 2023.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.